we're going to really talk about the entire grading company right now. We're going to talk about competitive market, a competitive grading market. We're going to look at it currently, what that means looking forward. Just to get my little spiel right now. I mean, obviously we have CGC, we have CBCS, we have PGX, and we have EGS. For me, I am all about competition. Anybody that has studied any type of business, maybe in school or, wherever, you guys would understand that competition matters in most industries. Obviously you have, oligarchies or monopolistic type industries, like when you talk about, essential resources like water, or energy and things like that. So we're gonna set those aside. But any type of retail business, any type of service business or service industry, competition is a healthy thing. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, CGC's a monopoly. It's got a monopoly on the market." It absolutely does not. Once you get multiple, companies offering the same service, the same product, of course, this is not a monopoly, regardless of how much market share one company gets. Okay, I want to throw that out of the way and make that clear. We have essentially right now 4 competitive industry players. I personally, we all may have our personal opinions. Like, I personally do believe that PGX, although I will give PGX credit, I think it was maybe 2019 when they changed their slabs and labels again. And I thought they started looking, and any slab before that with PGX, I thought was horrible garbage. And I just wouldn't buy it because I thought it looked horrible. But I actually don't mind the aesthetics of their current slab. But I personally would never spend money on sending books to PGX because I do not trust their grading at all. I think 90% of the books that they grade are heavily overgraded comparative to any of the other companies. Obviously, I love and respect what EGS has been doing. They're providing a sub-market that none of the other companies provide when it comes to custom grading. They're very, very transparent because they have grader notes on every single book. Great customer service. Obviously, if you're looking at differentials and turnaround time, that matters as well. I recently purchased a CBCS slab. I really like their new slabs. I actually like their new labels. I like them a lot. I think CGCS has the best cases. Obviously, I question some of their quality control. I question the validity and some of the grades, sometimes lack of grader notes, all those things. So, and Drew, I'm going to lead up I'm going to have Bronze Age. I'm going to have you start this off, but I want to lead into this with a little more of my own personal perspective here before I let you guys jump in. I believe really, and I think a lot of people don't understand this. Graded comics are both a product and a service, because there are people out there that simply say they should, there's no reason that one company should be worth more than the next. If an Amazing Spider-Man 300 is a 9.8 and a CBCS and a CGC, they should be worth the same. I disagree, because you're not just paying for the service of the certified grade. You're paying for a product, and that product is the aesthetics, the way the slab looks and feels, the way the label looks and feels. So there are differentials in what make one product and service different than the other. It's just like Pete's, Starbucks. It's just like shopping at Lucky's or Safeway or Vons or whatever there are. I don't know. I'm on the West Coast, so those are my options. But there are differentials, and I think that'll always be there in terms of looking at value. But we do know that CGC takes the cake when it comes to top tier value on the secondary market. So, Bronze Age, I'll let you jump in. This is a bit of a two-part thing here. I call it the chicken or the egg when it comes to CGC being the top dog on the secondary market in terms of value. I personally believe that they had a head start. They were the first grading company out there, and they just kind of like solidified themselves in the market before anyone could jump in. They had a head start. So is it the chicken or the egg? Are we really valuing their service and product more, and that's why we're willing to pay a higher price, or are we just falling in line because they're already going for that higher price, so then we just follow suit, right? So how do you look at that currently on the market, and how do you think we'll ever get past that, or how do you think we can ever change that perception? And obviously your answer might pertain to looking at that competitive factor.
Yeah. And it's truly, this is something that when we talked about this show coming up, this is one of those things that I just thought was a fascinating topic. I think it's a great experiment, a thought experiment that we should all be asking ourselves if you're into slabbing books. And I think that really what it comes down to is sort of what you said. CGC got out of the gates early. They had a decent enough reputation. They had the funding. They clearly had the backing. And you kind of look at the market and where it's at. And even though Steve Borak left and he founded CBCS, that encouraged some people to go to CBCS. Some people definitely kind of went with him, if you will. Some people always want to drink Pepsi instead of Coke.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm a Pepsi guy. I'm totally down with that. I don't really drink much soda, but when I do, I like to go for the See, no, but it's just one of those things where you do have people that want to be kind of the contrarian a little bit too. So you're going to have people that go over to say CBCS, but really, what you have to look at is what's the value difference. And if you've been a CGC customer, there's probably only a couple factors that are going to get you to go to another grading company. And I'm not just saying that there's only two grading companies, but there's a point I'll get to here. When it comes to CGC, if you were that loyal customer, they either had to really mess up, really tick you off, or you had to have a reason to want to switch to a different grading company. And when the guy who founded one company goes over and kind of, helps start up another company, and there's not a ton of real difference to me. When I look at CGC and CBCS, I personally value those books about the same. I think there's been points in history where CGC has been a little bit more accurate on grading. I think there's points where CBCS has been a little bit more accurate on grading. And kind of when I say that, I think a little bit more harsh, which I want. I want kind of a harsh grade personally. A more critical grade probably is a better way to say that. And I look at those two companies and I'm like, well, why would I go to CBCS exclusively over CGC? Maybe it's price. And so for some people, that's a factor. But then you also have to consider resale and whether or not it's really true. And I think it's actually less true than most people think. You have tons of people in this hobby that say, well, CGC is going to get you top dollar. And that might technically be true, but the actual difference between those books sometimes isn't as high as people think it is, or isn't as much as people think it is. So I think it's really just kind of comes down to this whole idea of like, what is the perception of those companies and what makes you want to change? Now, you look at another company like, say, Tony over at EGS and EGS Grading Services. They are offering something different, and it has gotten some people excited. It hasn't, from what I can tell, and there's not a whole lot of numbers I've been able to contract on this, it probably hasn't moved the needle that much, but there are certainly people that want that custom label. And I can understand that. It's a different kind of thing. CGC's done pretty well with the custom labels, which aren't really custom labels.
Character labels.
Yeah, you got your templates you can choose from. But there's a whole nother thing there with like whether or not you can actually get them, or they expire, or can you get the one for the book you want? Will it let you grab it for that particular book? But the thing that's really going to change when we're starting to talk about what does kind of shake this up, where does the chicken and the egg kind of take place? I think that for any of this to change, one of those companies has to make a radical change, or we have to have a new player in the grading market, which is the thing that even though there's really no talk about it out there other than kind of wishful thinking, that's what actually gets me excited, is thinking about somebody who has funding, somebody coming into the grading space. Maybe it's somebody from another type of industry where there are graded memorabilia out there, and getting into this and sort of shaking up the market as we see it today. Somebody who could be a true competitor to CGC and CBCS and offer those different types of either services or get people excited about going by any service. Maybe it's subgrades, that kind of stuff. Whatever is really going to move the needle for people, and that's up to individuals. But I think that's kind of what we're looking at here is we're going to be going with CGC for a while as the dominant force in the market until we have a significant reason to change.
I absolutely love that. I'm going to come back to that, but we'll let Drew step in. And again, just to reiterate, Drew, looking at both, the perception, the value currently, and of course all the other players. That type of competition. How's that competition going to look moving forward?
Okay, I think a lot of it depends on the forum in which you're selling. Like if you're sending books to Heritage or Comic Link to sell, and you're going head to head, CBCS book, CGC book, right now, obviously the CGC book is going to take the lead most of the time. But out here in the trenches, like at shows and things like that, at least around here, every dealer I know sells CGC and CBCS books of the same grade for the same money. We have GPA for the most part. Look at Comic Link sales, just you amass all the data, you determine what the fair market value is, and that goes on the book regardless of if it's CBCS or CGC. So those two obviously are the big two. Now, when you deviate below that line and you start looking at PGX, some of the other carriers or other graders, that calculus changes a little bit. I know from my own personal experience and just watching it happen in real time, PGX really burned themselves really bad with book swapping and just, let's be honest, one of the main things I look for when I submit a book is I want the restoration check. And when they're certifying books that are obviously restored as not restored, that is the biggest value killer in the hobby, as we all know. And it's just when you can at least rely on that piece of it being accurate, that burned all the goodwill. So I don't know that they'll ever get that back. Their new case looks a lot better. Anecdotally, I have a buddy who's just started getting into grading. So he's like, I'm going to try them. I'm going to send some books. He's like, it's awesome. It's cheap. I got them back pretty quickly. I will never do it again. And I'm like, all right, man, you do your thing. I didn't want to influence him one way or the other. Right. So to just have that feedback that, okay, he's just getting into comics, submitted to the other two, and despite all the advantages, speed and cost, to still have that reaction, I thought it was a really interesting situation just to see how somebody coming in fresh would review that. But in the future, I think it's already happening that the gulf between CBCS and CGC is closing. I got to be honest, I don't have a lot of experience with some of the other grading companies out there. I've seen a few Halo books, I think it is. But for the most part, it's just CBCS and CGC. And for my own personal reasoning on why I've trended more towards CBCS lately over CGC in recent years, CBCS still goes out to shows and takes direct submissions. I know CGC does, but they seem to think there's this giant void in the center of the country. There's like the West Coast and the East Coast and then the Gulf. Right. And between those things is this massive nothingness. So I'm going to support the company that comes out and meets me where I am. So, we've got a local convention in Kansas City that pulls 50K attendees every year. There's no reason CGC shouldn't be at a show like that. Right. They're bogged down now. I get why they're not, but that's my take on that. But yeah,
for sure. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to chime in here and kind of pull in some stuff from what you both said, and then I'll let you guys get a final word. And I personally think that first off, in terms of the value on the market, I like what both of you had to say and share, because I think it really boils down to a perception that is overgeneralized, in my opinion. I've actually seen, and I'm not sitting there looking at it every day, but I'll hop on and I'll pick a certain book and I'll look at sales. I'll pull up eBay. I'll even go on Mercari, and it's amazing sometimes some of the things you see on Mercari. And I'm not only seeing kind of like certain gaps become close with CBCS and CGC. I've seen some CBCS books sell higher than the most recent CGC. So I hope everyone watching right now understands that, and like you said, Drew, I think when you look at like these big heritage auctions, probably the bigger books, it becomes not just perception, it becomes more validated that they're going to be looking at CGC as the standard, the standard that we trust. It's been here since day one, to set the tone. But again, I think that shift is already there. It's already starting. I think CBCS has definitely made some great business decisions that have continued to propel them upward, while I think CGC kind of lagged on that end. But again, to both of what you guys said, it's not like necessarily they're not caring. It's just that they are the top dogs with so much business that it's almost easier for a company like CBCS to sit and say, we can, or even we have to do this right now if we want to stay competitive. Where CGC is like, okay, now we're at a point where we need to start figuring it out. And I'm going to get to why this is still actually healthy for everyone involved. But then, to what you said, Bronze Age, you see something exciting happening that really is this, I don't want to say shock and awe, but it's something that takes notice, that can really grab people's attention, that really differentiates, instead of just saying, well, CBCS doesn't have the little white sticker, or they're $2 cheaper, or whatever, whatever the case may be. Or, they can't talk about turnaround times anymore because they're both crazy. So turnaround times, all this stuff. Yeah. Something that really changes the game and says that is different. And again, guys, I'm not sitting here promoting a certain company. I'm just being real in my analyzation. I'm going to pull out a EGS slab again. Now, one thing that I don't think people know is that EGS offers the standard labels. I think people just think that, they're just a custom label grading service. Custom labels are options. They have a blue label. They have a signature series label. Just want to throw that out there. But I believe that if EGS, and again, I did an honest review. It was from last year. So they made some changes since then. I actually like their case. I don't, they have the little, what would you call these? The hinges. They have the hinges on top. I know that's, a lot of people say that I don't like the aesthetic of that, but a lot of people that judge EGS haven't actually held the slab. The slab feels good in the hand, but I will say, look, it's not CGC. It's not a CGC case. Custom labels aren't for everyone, but a lot of people like them. I like them a lot for certain books. I would want a standard blue label for other books. If EGS upgrades their cases and competes with the new CBCS cases, I show a CBCS, but I don't have it on me. But those new CBCS cases are nice. They really are.
Yeah.
They compete in terms of an aesthetic with CGC. If EGS gets to that case level, I think there it is. Yep, there it is. And that looks really nice, even on screen. Bronze Age, I really think EGS could be just that example. And if EGS wasn't here, I would use anybody, or I would, use a hypothetical. So, and one thing that I do know is that EGS is a growing company, and I know that they have plans. And that's all I'll say. They have plans to evolve their product, which includes case. So I'm actually very hopeful right now. This is kind of my final take, and I'll let you guys have final word here. I'm very, very hopeful for a competitive market. people get on me because I make videos about CGC. I was like, this book came back a 9.8 and I'm pissed. And they're like, you're mad because you thought it would be a 9.9? No, I'm mad because it should have been an 8.5. What the hell are they doing? Right? Or, I question things, and I like to allow people to critically think about things. But people are like, you're just butthurt, like CGC, like, flaws happen, or, mistakes that nobody's perfect. If I didn't care about CGC, I wouldn't talk about them. And it boils down to that. Like, I send books off to CGC. Actually, might send books off to CBCS because I have a coupon right over here. And I've got books. I have, EGS books, and I have more books sitting ready to send to EGS because they're, like I said, there's some books where I don't care about a custom label. There's other books that I do, and I'll send those books to EGS for a custom label. Even if I think, maybe CGC's current cases are a little better than EGS's cases, EGS still provides a different product. Some days I might want to drink a Pepsi. Some days I might want to drink a root beer. It's just, right, flavor of the month. But if I critique something, mostly it's because I want them to succeed and I want them to evolve. And I do believe that the grading industry is going to continue to evolve as a whole. I still think the grading industry is in its infancy. It's only been around for just over 20 years, folks. And in the scheme of things, it's still not a lot of time. I believe that CGC is at a crossroads right now, and not some crazy crossroads to where they're going to fail. I think it can happen because even Rome fell. I will use that analogy still, but I think they know what they're doing. I think they're taking their time. I think people are going to leave. I think people are saying, you know what, at this point, CBCS does offer something that I value more now. So I'm good with leaving CGC. I think EGS does offer something that I can value more now, but I don't think it's going to be enough to where it's going to really, kill CGC. But what I think is going to happen is that CGC is going to continue to evolve. CBCS is going to continue to evolve. EGS is going to continue to evolve. And I think the market share is going to grow. Not only is it going to grow, it's going to shift around. I would add PGX. I don't want to be a hater. I would add PGX, but like you guys stated too, I think they really dug up their own grave. And who knows? I do think there's room for other companies to come on board and give it a try and try to penetrate what once seemed to be an impenetrable market. So I'm very, very hopeful and optimistic overall for every company. And I think there is going to be healthy competition on the market. And when I say healthy, I'm not saying that EGS is ever going to, topple over CGC or even that CBCS is. I don't think it needs to happen like that. But I think there's going to be a playing field to where we're going to see at least a few competitors exist and be extremely healthy and be seen by a good chunk of the market as being a valid player in the grading industry. So that's my final words. Drew, I'll let you jump in here, get final words, and then we'll end with Bronze Age.
Okay. I mean, if you want to look at it like retail wise, look at Walmart and Kmart, right? Like Kmart was the top dog, and Walmart just kept plugging away and doing what it did. And eventually Kmart just fell apart from the inside. Yep. So I think that's when you get to be the top, it's easy to get complacent or let things tear you down from the inside like that. And I think that's what CGC is going to have to avoid if they want to maintain that top position, because when you are the top dog, everybody else is gunning for you. So how long that'll take, will that happen? I don't know. I'm just happy to see the market kind of recognizing that there is some equality amongst them. You can find examples from any of the companies where it's like, okay, that book's overgraded, that book's undergraded, that case sucks. Like, I mean, it's just, it is what it is. But I think it'll be interesting to see where we go in 10 years time, just to look back now and remember the great graded comic wars of the early 2010 or late 2010s and early 2020s.
There you go. I dig it. Ron's age.
Yeah, so just a thought that kind of comes from this for me when I'm thinking about all of this is, and I'm a real novice when it comes to sports cards. So if I'm a little off base when I say this, sports cards reference, let me know. But from what I understand, when it comes to sports card grading, there are at least some kind of general ideas that, hey, I'll go with this company if I have a vintage card. I'll go with this company if I have a brand new, parallel or whatever. I'll go with this company if I have, a collectible, that kind of thing. So I think that there's room for the collectibles comic book graded market to kind of follow a similar pattern. And hopefully we see some specialization from these companies to where we can start to separate the pack. And especially when it comes to CGC and CBCS, there are CBCS has the signature verification program, for example. Mm-hmm. That's a different type of value add that they have. Right. I want to see those types of differences really fleshed out. And I do stand by the fact that even, seeing EGS improve is great. CBCS improve is great. Same with CGC. I'd love to see PGX improve. But I would like to see a new kind of competitor really kind of enter the field and shake things up even to one extra degree. I don't know that we'll see that. There's obviously money involved in grading comic books. And when that happens, I feel like you will see more competition. And just like Chris was saying, that extra competition, in my mind, is going to be better for the consumer in the long run. And that's what I'm hoping to see is kind of that consumer forward thinking from these companies. And that's what I'd really hope to see.